You want to know the biggest mistake a seller makes? Overpricing their home. I know, you've had decades of cultural conditioning that real estate always goes up. And this is generally true, but the path is not always a straight line. Take the 2008 housing crash. It was a glaring counterexample. Prices tumbled like a stack of bricks. Sellers still dismiss that time as an anomaly. It was the Fed's bad lending practices. It was the buyers who bought homes they couldn't afford. Blah, blah, blah. It took a good 10 plus years for housing prices to steadily regain values. Then COVID shut down the country, and many people wanted to get out of the big cities. They wanted peace, more space around them, tranquility, everything that we have here in the Southern California desert. So during those years, home prices skyrocketed. There were many more buyers than there were sellers and homes on the market. Now, sellers see the 2020 to 2022 as the real baseline, not the exception. We're human. For years, the media has bombarded us with the same narratives like skyrocketing prices and bidding wars, housing shortages. It's grooved into everyone's thinking. And we all love knowing that our homes were appreciating so much. I think it's the reason it's taking so much time for sellers to deal with today's market. As you know, it's different now. Sellers have to let go of the idea that they've lost something. Sellers, see yourself as winners. You're still benefiting from years of appreciation. Yeah, but what about all the renovations I've made? Well, sure, renovations do matter and they do increase your home value. But it matters what kind of renovations were made and when they were made. If it was 10, 15 years ago, maybe not so much. And hopefully you didn't overdo it in the renovations and outpriced your home in your neighborhood. But yeah, generally renovations add value. So here's the reality of the current housing market. Emotions have run high, and media narratives have played huge roles in keeping sellers anchored in 2022 prices. The housing market of 2025 looks very different from the pandemic boom, and the gap between seller expectations and market conditions is wider than ever. Here in our desert resort communities, our prices took off like a rocket when California sheltered in place. Even though our restaurants and shops were closed, our weather was so awesome. People from LA and parts of California and other parts of the country said, yeah, let's buy a place out there. We can relax, spend time in the sun, and just get away from it all. In 2021, a buyer could secure a 30-year fixed mortgage loan for as little as 2.5%. Now rates hover between 6 and 7%. That shift doubled the cost on monthly payments for those who need a mortgage loan. In 2021, $600,000 loan at 2.75% is $2,450 a month. The same loan at 6.5% is $3,800 a month. That's a big difference. Sellers, this is hard to grasp. They still see their home worth $900,000 because that's what buyers were willing to pay when rates were cheap. But today, buyers, and that includes cash buyers, aren't rejecting the home, they're rejecting the price. Keep in mind, housing costs have gone up. HOA, maintenance, utilities, insurance, they've all gone up. And buyers look at these costs. The house is no more than just a mortgage payment. And buyers are aware of all of these costs and they're cautious. They're not going to waive inspections. They want sellers to pay for major repairs, even minor repairs. So, just like sellers who are anchored to the highs of 2022, buyers are anchored to the lows of 2008. They aren't willing to overpay for a home. That said, there are pockets of communities that sell much faster than others and for near asking price. But these communities, they're rare. They're special. And they've always been in demand. But it's not the rule today. Don't make the mistake in thinking that reducing the price of your home every month by 5,000, 10,000, maybe 20,000 will bring you more buyers. It doesn't. And don't hire an agent who will do this for you. They're not tuned into the market or they just don't know better. These tiny price reductions don't do anything for you. A serious buyer will go in with an offer significantly lower than this if you're not priced realistically. If you're priced to the market, you won't need to reduce it by tiny amounts. In other words, don't list your house high, thinking a buyer will see the value of your home. They won't. Also, please don't tell your agent that if your house doesn't sell at the price you think it's worth, then you're just going to lease the house. That's a good way to disincentivize your agent's enthusiasm. Now, they paid a significant amount of money for your home's photos and videos, and they busted their rear ends in marketing it. If you throw in the towel and lease it, after all their hard work goes up in smoke. Sellers, please be upfront with your agent. Don't tell your agent that you'd consider leasing your house after your agent has listed your home. Prices here in my area really have a great range. Depending upon the location and if it's a condo or a single family home, I'm talking about a huge range. $200,000 to over 20 million. Yeah, that's our area. Obviously, buyers are in different income categories and home prices, but they all are in the same camp. They won't overpay. I knew a seller who fell into the price trap. He bullied his agent into listing his house much higher than the comps were for his community. So, okay, this was his second home, and he had put in a considerable amount of money into its renovation. It was nice, but he renovated it only partially. There were areas of the house that needed attention, and the backyard really needed attention. He bought the house only a year or two, I think 2 years before he listed it. I won't take a penny less than 1.2 million, he told his agent. Okay, but the comps in his neighborhood didn't support that price, even with his upgrades. He got a few showings, but the buyers weren't really sold on his home, and so he never got any offers. He believed it was his agent's fault it didn't sell, so he hired another agent at a discounted compensation. That agent took photos of the house with his cell phone to list it in the MLS. The photos looked horrible. This agent didn't even get the correct information about the house into the MLS. Now, by this time, the seller's frantic. He wasn't living in the house. He was living in his home in the East Coast, and he was carrying two mortgages. He was drowning. So after 7 or 8 months and many tiny price reductions, the house finally sold for $750,000, about the price he paid for it 2 years previously. This seller wasted a lot of time, a lot of mortgage payments, HOA dues, maintenance costs, a lot of money in the renovation as well. It would have been a different outcome for him if he had initially priced his home to the market. When you don't get offers, you're overpriced. The market has spoken. Overpriced homes just sit on the market far longer than realistically priced ones. The longer it's on the market, the more buyers wonder what's wrong with it. Even when the sellers eventually lower the price, the stigma is there. Don't think that taking your home off the market for 90 days will work to your advantage. It doesn't. Every time your home is listed in the MLS, it has a history. You can't escape your past list prices and the days it was on market. Trust me, realtors look at past histories and use it to negotiate. As a realtor, I get many marketing emails from other agents. It says, huge discounts, motivated sellers, for sale or lease. Oh, that's my favorite. Who are they kidding? The home wasn't priced to the market in the first place. Now these agents are backpedaling and begging for buyers. One of the hardest truths for sellers to accept is that they've missed the peak. The record setting prices of 2022 weren't a permanent new baseline. It was a fleeting moment in real estate history created by extraordinary circumstances, rock bottom interest rates, pandemic migration, and frenzied buyer psychology. The boom was extraordinary, but it was also unsustainable. Sellers who keep chasing the mirage will stay frustrated. Those who accept the present will thrive. Real estate, like life, is about adaptation. We don't expect gas prices, the stock market, or interest rates to stay frozen at their peaks or their troughs. So remember, you can't expect housing to do it either. Get yourself a realtor you trust and respect. You'll save a lot of grief, time, and money. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Darlene Harwick, realtor for the desert resort cities of Palm Springs, Rancho Mirage, Palm Desert, Indian Wells, La Quinta, and Indio. And I think you're going to like this next video.